welcome to the dungeon. This is episode 17, and I'm so excited to bring this to you because this episode is all about the Dark Tower, and I'm sure at some point you guys knew this was going to happen. The last episode that we did, episode 16, the Michigan Fish, well, this kind of the story continues from there because my friend Rich wanted me to make something very specific that was Dark Tower related for his niece, Stacie Carver. Also loves the Dark Tower series. Stacie is an excellent illustrator and she works on a lot of major cartoons out there for TV. You can check out her Instagram page at Carver Illustrations. It doesn't matter if you have never read the books or not. You can follow along with this video. It's a lot of fun. It's basically a marble tutorial. Thanks again for watching, you guys. We'll see you on another episode coming up soon. Enjoy, take care, be safe.
He smelled the tang of sour sea salt. And in spite of everything, all his pain and sorrow, he suddenly wanted to see this tower of which Roland spoke. He wanted to see it very much.
Just a quick little background on Marilyn's rainbow. These are the 13 glass orbs that were made by a wizard in the Stephen King universe, Marilyn. And some of them got in the hands of the Red King, the Crimson King, who is like the bad guy. And in his hands, most of them were broken. But in the Dark Tower, we find the pink one and Black 13. And those are very powerful, evil orbs that make their way into a most amazing story. Here they are. So this is going to be broken down into about 8 parts to make a full marble. And these are just simple marbles. But where we want to start is gathering the amount of glass that we need to begin the marble. How I gather the glass is very simply just by heating and heating and heating and allowing that glass to flip-flop on top of the rod itself, which will preheat the rod so then you can go back and forth. And sometimes I'm underhanded, sometimes I will end up being overhanded. And that also helps because as that ball gets bigger on the end, you're going to need something to hold it up, which is your rod. So you're going to be holding your rod more of a 45 and higher degree angle to get the amount of glass that you need for whatever you're working on. Notice how this one is really, really moving quickly. There is a point where you need to just come out and then warm it back up again. There I am going overhanded, which really helps my angle. Now we're ready for part 2. Now, if you're lucky, your glass might be the perfect size for one of your marble molds, and then you can just gently pop it in there and slowly or quickly turn depending on how hot the glass is. Sometimes, as in this case, I want to start out with a football shape because I want to add more to the glass, more pattern, or maybe I am going to add clear to it. But either way, no matter how sloppy it is, you want to start out by kind of pushing and pulling that marble as you heat it up. You're pushing to get the bottom hemisphere, and you're pulling to round out the top hemisphere. And then as it cools down, that's when you want to start to downsize and just work on just the outer shell of your glass. Here again, I am just working on a slight football shape. This is a small start to a marble. And here, I've already made my pattern, but I do want to cut a score mark in this one so I know where to break it off later. There's so many fun things that you can do when it comes to adding design to your marble. Even something very simple. Like all of these are going to be very simple marbles. This one is black 13, and I just used a little bit of silver foil to make it enticing to look at and to almost suck you in. And then I added clear on top. This one, however, because it's a transparent, I start with a white base and I just slop that dark green all over it, and it looks gorgeous because you really want to have a white base underneath any transparent. On this one, I just encased one single color. It came out looking really nice, being encased in just clear. Each one of these marbles is a slightly different shape too, which gives you a nice variety when you're making your own bag of marbles. And then here on this one, I thought I'd just do a quick sloppy trail. And this is the orange one. And this is not one mentioned in the book itself. Now, if you want to get really crazy, you can add 2 mandrels on the end of your orb and start to very gently twist and turn to get a nice twisted effect. And then make sure you take one end off so you can round out the other side. No matter what happens, you're going to have to go back into your marble mold. And when I do that, it can get really sloppy on the second time around because you've added a lot more glass, things are moving on the small rod. Just get into a larger shape and round it out the best you can. Now this one, I'm just going to push it right down in there. And notice how I push it down and then I come and I start rolling it on the edge. And that really helps out to round it, is rolling with your rod on the edge of the marble mold. If you push too much, your marble will not be round. If you pull too much, your marble might not be perfectly round. So you really want to be able to heat and understand how the marble mold works as you go from a larger mold to a smaller mold. And make sure that as you're going into that smaller mold, you're slowly cooling it down at the same time. So I'm going into another mold here. Here's one that's really sloppy, but all I'm trying to do is get a slightly round shape. I'm just trying to get a round shape. Don't go there all at once. It may take you 3 or 4 times. Oh, now for the fun part, adding the punty. Every time I add the punty, I round out the tip, and I make sure that the very tip of the punty is hotter than the marble itself. I want a solid state marble that I'm adding just the hint of softness to it with your punty. You're doing good if it comes off real quick. But make sure that it does indeed hold. You can easily add a punty too cold and the marble will just fall right off. But it's a gentle stick and then straight up into the flame to start heating off the other end. You do not want to go back and heat the punty up again. Once we're done with that, we take off the other end and we're going to round this end out. This is like the last rounding. Notice most of my heat is on the bottom hemisphere, not on the top. And this is where you can start to gently begin to roll from the cool end to the hot end. Here's another side view. Okay, so when I break off, I gently make sure the bottom is hot. I just score with my knife and I gently give it a break. And I immediately move the marble with the tip of my knife to where that sharp area is on the top so I can heat it in the torch. I do this every time. Now you want to be careful because not only do you want your marble mold hot, so the marble doesn't get too cold in it as it's sitting there while you're heating up the other side, but you also want to make sure you don't burn your fingers when you lift it up. I have to use 2 hands because I'm shaky. And here is a really nice example of just having to heat it once and heat it one more time. And then sometimes I'll gently push down when I break off, just a little tiny bit. There we go. And now right into the flame for our final reheat. Make sure you don't stay here too long or it'll start to flatten out. And the final thing that we're going to accomplish here on our marbles is just the reheat at the very end. Just that little tiny punny mark. Doesn't take much. Make sure that you're looking at it as you're heating it up. Bring it out of the flame. Make sure that it's rounded. Once it's rounded, immediately put it in your annealer and it is ready to go. I hope this helps out you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I had a blast making this. I hope you all enjoy and stay tuned for the next episode.